Number 1. Cabin on the Lake. I own an old cabin that I often spend a week or two at during the year. It is really beautiful, sitting right off a big lake. It is also very secluded. I take my fishing boat out there and just spend the week fishing. Sometimes, if the fish aren't really biting, I'll just motor down the lake and see what's up. I was on my second or third day of a trip when I had a frightening experience. I had been out early to fish, but I wasn't getting anywhere. So I decided to go far out on the lake. I had actually been out so long that it was beginning to get dark before I even had turned around to go home. When I began on my way back, it cooled significantly outside, and soon a fog began to form on the lake. I had never been out on the lake during a foggy night before, so I was a little worried. But that was mostly about navigation. I wasn't concerned anything bad was out on the lake. I normally run into other fishermen during the day, but by the time it was dark, there seemed to be no one but myself out there. It was very difficult, and I might add eerie, to be out on a fog-covered lake. In order to not lose track, I decided to get my boat as close to the shore as was safe. The fog just continued to thicken, which was a concern. Fortunately, I did have a fog light on my boat, but being close to the shore was a bit frightening. The fog was just as thick on the shore, and I could barely see anything. I don't really recall how long it took me to get home on that fog-covered lake, but it did take a while. Finally, though, I saw my dock. I was surprised, though, when I got closer and got a better look at it. There was another boat tied up to my dock. This was strange because not only did I own the dock, but there were no other cabins or anything around by where my cabin was. There was no need for anyone to use my dock. I wasn't sure what I should do. I immediately assumed that someone had docked there and was probably in my cabin. I certainly wasn't really in the mood to confront some burglars if that was the case. Now, maybe that was an odd conclusion to jump to, but I just spent about 2 hours alone on a fog-covered lake. I was already a bit shaken, and I didn't have anything on me that I could use as a weapon. I did the only thing that I thought was a good idea. I turned the lights out on my boat, and I moved it far enough away from the dock to the side. I figured I would just sit there and wait for whoever boat that was to get into it and leave. It was difficult to do. I was actually wondering if it was a stupid idea. I mean, if they couldn't see me from the boat, there wasn't much of a chance that I could see them from mine. But I waited, and the butterflies in my stomach made me feel very sick, just sitting there in the fog and watching. There were so many noises out there, crickets, frogs. I was right by the shore, so occasionally I'd hear some rustling noises that made me think that maybe someone was walking in the woods behind me. Finally, after who knows how long, I saw something. There was a light over by my cabin. I watched it as it slowly made its way down to the dock. After a few moments on the dock, I saw the boat's fog light turn on. Then I watched as the light, and thus the boat, slowly made its way away from the dock, out onto the lake, and eventually completely out of sight. When enough time had passed, I finally drove my boat over to the dock. I nervously got out of the boat and tied it up. I then slowly made my way to the cabin. I wasn't sure what to expect and didn't feel like I was alone. When I got to the cabin and turned the lights on, I was surprised to see the entire place was ransacked. Furniture was cut open and knocked over. Things were broken. I went in and checked the bathroom, and someone had taken a marker and written on it, "We're coming back, Chad." Well, first off, I'm not Chad, nor do I know anyone named Chad. But I also didn't want to wait around and explain that to the guys when they got back. I called the authorities, and after I was done dealing with them, I left and went home. The guys who broke into my cabin were eventually arrested. They had mistaken my cabin for one that belonged to a guy they were involved in a poaching ring with. But the police got them, And they got Chad, too.
The scariest thing that has ever happened to me when I was walking home from one work night. I lived in a low-income house complex, probably a mile and a half or 2 miles from work. That's why I didn't have a car or other transportation, but the walk didn't bother me much once I got used to it. This night, however, a thick fog began forming a few hours before my work shift was over. I watched it roll in as the job was actually pretty slow. By the time I had gotten off work, it was close to midnight. The fog was pretty much the thickest one I had ever seen in my life. All the co-workers drove home, and none of them offered me a ride or anything. That was actually pretty typical. Walking in the thick fog was a new experience for me. I couldn't really see much of anything that wasn't a few feet in front of my face. I basically got through it by watching my feet rather than just looking straight ahead of me. Anyway, my walk normally took about 45 minutes. It was taking a little longer this night though. After about 10 minutes of walking, I thought I heard footfalls behind me, but when I stopped to listen, they stopped as well. I started back up again, and almost immediately, I thought I heard steps following me again. This was creepy, and it was something right out of an old cartoon or scary movie. That all I was hearing were the echoes of my own footfalls, but when you're freaked out and somewhat anxious, it's hard to convince yourself things like that. I turned onto the road that led to my apartment building. That's when I stumbled a bit and fell to my knee. As I was getting up, I heard a voice right beside me ask, "Ever think you'd die on a foggy night?" I then felt something touch my shoulder. I took off like a rocket. I ran faster than I'd ever had in my life. Fortunately, I was almost home and I was able to get into my apartment before anything else happened. Immediately, I looked out the window to see if anyone was outside. I didn't see anything though.
Hey y'all, Killer Orange Cat here. I want to thank Scare Reads for guest narrating this video. The link to his half of the collaboration, featuring a story read by me, will appear at the end of this closing. Make sure to go check out his channel and subscribe. If you like this video, please let me know by hitting the like button. If you're not already subscribed to Killer Orange Cat, please hit the subscribe button below, or use the icon of Ichigo that will appear at the end of this closing. Feel free to leave a comment to let me know what you thought, and consider sharing this video with someone you think might enjoy it. Consider following Ichigo and myself on Facebook and Twitter. For now, though, please don't forget to make sure to check in your closet and check under your bed, because you never know where a killer orange cat might be hiding. Good night.